Peace, family. This is Tariq. Welcome back again for another day, another episode of Knowledge Corner. All right, today's insight: weather the quiet storms. Weather the quiet storms. Today's insight comes from the song Quiet Storm by the great Smokey Robinson. This is off of his third solo album entitled A Quiet Storm. That was released on March 26th of 1975. Quiet Storm is a song that I've heard all of my life, growing up in Northeast Ohio, listening to 93.1 WZAK as a kid. At 9 o'clock was on the radio was the Quiet Storm. That's when, the slow songs and stuff would come on. As well as there was a song by, I forgot, I know Kane is in his name, but it was a song called For Lovers Only. So those two songs would be the intro to the Quiet Storm mix on the radio. So I've heard the song, but I've never really paid attention to the lyrics until recent. And this song has come up in a lot of my playlists, even though it's not technically my favorite Smokey song. There are other songs that Smokey has that I actually like more than this one. I actually like Ebony Eyes with Smokey and James a lot more than Quiet Storm. But obviously God is wanting me to discuss the quiet storms that we have in our lives. So a part of the song that resonated with me that we're going to focus on is when Smokey sings Quiet Storm blowing through my life. A quiet storm blowing through my life. Now, what is a quiet storm? Now, we kind of know what major storms are. Those are storms that are in our lives that rock us to the pit of our being, our souls. Those are things that will shake us up. A quiet storm is something that you deal with on your own that a lot of people don't know that you're dealing with. I'll give you an example. For me, I've always been insecure about my arms. I was born with no rotation in my arms, so I can't turn my arms, either arm, all the way over. To make a palm. So as a kid, that is something that I was very insecure about, that I was made fun of. So that was a quiet storm that I dealt with because I felt lesser than, because I was not able to do what other kids did. But the older I got and the more I started really to gain confidence within myself, that storm was no longer. I was able to deal with not being able to do what other people do. But then I also had to realize that every person is not perfect. Everyone has their faults. Even though I may not be able to do what some people can do, there are things that I can do that other people can't. And that, again, that was a storm that I had to weather on my own, that I didn't realize that a lot of people have those quiet storms in their life. Everyone's quiet storm is going to be different. Whether you're dealing with, a storm within a relationship or something interpersonal, you not being able to lose weight or things of that nature. Everyone has their storms, and those storms, a lot of times, they follow us through our lives that a lot of people don't realize. I used to work with a guy who on the outside seemed really, really cool. Real cool guy. But inside, he was extremely depressed. But you would have never known that he was until he unalived himself. He did not want to be here anymore. That was a quiet storm that he was dealing with on his own. And, peace and blessings be upon him. I pray, that in the afterlife that he was able to get the peace that he was not able to get in this life. But again, we all have our quiet storms that we deal with. Mark chapter 4, verse 39. Then he rose and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." And the wind ceased, and there was a great calm. It's interesting because as you know, I'm reading the Bible. I'm reading it all the way through. And I actually literally just read Mark. I'm actually in the process. I'm still in Mark. I want to say right now I'm in chapter 10 of Mark. But I remember reading Mark 4, I want to say yesterday. And I remember seeing this, and it's actually kind of fitting that this is the verse that I chose to go with this, because Peace Be Still was a song that I used to hear a lot as a kid in church. You want to have peace. You want to be able to go through this life and have a level of peace. But again, a lot of us don't, because we're dealing with those quiet storms. So in this verse, you can see Jesus telling the wind, to be still. And it actually ended up doing that, after a while. And a lot of times those storms that we deal with, a lot of times if we don't go to a higher power, we're still going to go through those things. A lot of things, a lot of older people say, I'm going to leave it in God's hands. A lot of times, when you're young, when you're growing up, you don't realize that a lot of things that we have on our plate, we could take off of our plate as long as we can actually allow God to focus us, and we follow the path that God made for us. So I got to a point to where I had to say, peace, be still. And once I was able to do that, then I was able to move on from a lot of the quiet storms that I had. I only told you about one, but there were many quiet storms that I had to deal with. Surah Ar-Ra'd. This is the 13th surah. This is the 12th verse in this surah. It is he who does show you the lightning by way both of fear and of hope. It is he who does raise up the clouds heavy with fertilizing rain. Fertilizing. What is fertilizer? Fertilizer allows, plants and crops to grow. It's an act or process of fecundation, insemination, or pollination. It's used to impregnate, things. Fertile, to be fertile. In this case, to fertilize. You have a heavy with fertilizing rain. That rain is allowing us to deal with a lot of the things that we deal with on a regular basis. It's showing us that, yes, even though we're having to weather these storms, without hope, we won't be able to go through any of these storms. I learned a poem when I was in college. The poem is called Weather. It is whether the weather's warm, whether the weather's hot, whether the weather's cold, whether the weather's not. We will weather the weather no matter the weather, whether we like it or not. When I learned that, of course, I memorized it, and it really did not hold a lot of weight for me until I was out of college. And then I'm replaying a lot of things that happened in my life. And I had to realize it. We will weather the weather no matter the weather, whether we like it or not. Whether we like it or not, we're going to have those storms in our life. You just have to deal with them. And a lot of us don't know how to deal with them. So we revert and we go into a shell. But if you know how to weather your storms, then you'll be a better person. And the older you get, and the more you're in tune with the Most High, you'll be able to weather those storms because you'll be prepared to do so. So, quiet storm, Smokey Robinson, weather those quiet storms. I know you can, because I was able to. And I pray you watching this video will allow you to see that we're a lot more alike. We have a lot more things in common than we don't. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, and positive energy activates constant elevation. Peace.